Yeah, let me talk about this story involving this conservative commentator named Allie Beth Stuckey. And that's her. She basically works for one of Glenn Beck's channels. She does a show. It's like one of those Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh type of people, just conservative propaganda. You know the type. But apparently, I did not pay attention to this at the time because all stupid things conservatives say just kind of blend together. But apparently, she did an episode last year, last August, a little over a year ago, and this is what she said. I'm going to try to do my best Allie Beth Stuckey impression, all right? I'm just going to say this. Dinosaurs never existed. You've got these bones, you've got these fossils. Let me show you. You can see it with me here. You've got these fossils supposedly, and they supposedly date back millions of years. And then I think it's a bunch of nerds constructing this fantasy world that they think is awesome. Like, how do you know what the skin of a pterodactyl looked like? How do you know what it sounded like? How do you know these things really? And like the different color patterns and all of that. How are you picking that up from the bones? If I were to pick like a theory, I'm like, ugh, I could see dinosaurs not being real. You're welcome. That's my impression of her. So her argument here is that dinosaurs didn't exist. No one knows anything about them. Fossils are just, you have them, but they don't mean anything apparently. And then nerds just fill in the blanks. As Jessica mentioned on the podcast we recorded about this, it seems like her entire understanding of dinosaurs comes from Jurassic Park and nowhere else. So she thinks they are fictional monsters, and that any history books that mention them, they're all guesses. They're not educated guesses. They're all just stabs in the dark. And here's the thing: I'm not a paleontologist, but dinosaurs are real. You know how we know they're real? Because their fossils sometimes include soft tissue that we can dissect and figure out. Like, for example, if they were covered in feathers, we know how muscular they were. We can tell which ways their eyes pointed because of their skulls. And yes, sometimes it requires filling in the blanks, like an evolutionary tree where we don't have every single link along the way. It's a connect the dot puzzle. Like, if you have enough, you get a sense of what the picture looks like. And it's not an educated guess. It's a pretty solid guess that can only be revised if you have better information. But here's an example of like how she operates. One time, here's an Instagram reel she once posted. Check this out. A new study suggests, there we go, suggests T-Rexes looked different than popular depictions. I'll be honest, I don't even know if that's true or not. There's probably some scientific paper that said we need to update our understanding of T-Rexes. But that's how science works. Someone says we have new information. We need to update our model of how this works. And here is her response to that in the reel. What have I been saying? No one actually knows what dinosaurs look like. The skin and sounds, especially, just a bunch of nerds recreating a Jurassic fantasy. So if you're looking at that, I think it's fair to say she does not believe dinosaurs exist. It's not a joke to her. That's what she actually believes about this stuff. And the reason I bring this up is because last week, guess who she interviewed? Let me show you. This is who she interviewed. Wait till you guess my reaction. Look at that. Can you see it? Were dinosaurs real? It's a conversation with Ken Ham, the creationist. She, the dinosaur denier, interviewed the dinosaur liar, Ken Ham. And if you don't know about Ken Ham, he's the young earth creationist behind the Creation Museum and Ark Encounter. But here's the thing about Ken Ham. Yes, he thinks dinosaurs are like 4,000 years old, which is off by like everything. But Ken Ham does definitely believe in dinosaurs. I know that because he makes a big deal about them in the Creation Museum. If you ever visit, you can ride a dinosaur. He has exhibits that have humans and dinosaurs in the same exhibit because he thinks they live together. As the joke goes, he thinks the Flintstones was a documentary. In the Noah's Ark place, I'm sorry, I should say in the Creation Museum, he has a skeleton, actual skeleton of an Allosaurus. It's like $1 million donation that was given to him by a guy named Michael Peroutka, who is a pro-secessionist neo-Confederate Republican, which is a whole different story. But the thing is, Ken Ham's whole thing is dinosaurs are real, and if you want to see some dinosaurs, come on down to Kentucky and come to his, money grabs, and you can ride one, as people do. So, again, it's ignorant, interviewing ignorant. It's not worth listening to the interview because nothing smart will get said. But I was curious, will Ken Ham call her out on the dinosaur denial thing? Does he even know about it? Does he do any research into it? I think he knows who she is. She's well known in conservative circles. So, like, he had every right to go into her house there or into her studio and say, "You're wrong. Dinosaurs are real. Here's how we know dinosaurs are real. Oh, and by the way, they're like 12 years old." Because, of course, he's going to say something stupid like that. So, how do you think that interview went? Of course, he didn't do that. He didn't call her out. Here's what Allie Beth Stuckey said during that interview. She said, "I've jokingly talked about how dinosaurs don't exist," which is weird because she's never joked about it. She was always 100% serious saying dinosaurs did not exist. Like, there was no winking in her earlier comments. But when she asked Ken Ham, like, how do you know they existed and what they looked like? He kind of answered her correctly and then kind of fueled her conspiracy minded thinking here. You could check out what he said here. Well, first of all, you need to be skeptical about what they actually look like, simply because when they find dinosaur bones, they really only find a few. There's not that many. Like, wrong answer. Skeptical is not the right word there because he's saying, oh, if any scientist tells you anything about dinosaurs, you don't have to trust them. That's what he means by that. And that's BS. We can be skeptical about every single fact because we don't know everything, but we know a lot. And it's not stabs in the dark, like I said. These are actual educated guesses based on the best available information. And you know what? Even if they found only a few dinosaur bones, which they haven't, they found a lot of them, that actually does tell you a lot of information. And then, first of all, do I believe in dinosaurs? Says Ken Ham. And the answer is yes. But who cares what he said after that? Because he said but. Like, what? Ken Ham has the opportunity to be the big guy here and say, you're wrong. Let me set you straight about something scientific, which is something he constantly wants to do. And even when this softball floats right into his lap, he's like, well, you might have a point, but let me try to convince you why I think dinosaurs might be real. Like, oh, come on. This is what happens when you put two conspiracy theorists together and they have a broken brain argument about a subject neither one knows anything about. And again, I'm not an expert, but here's the thing. If I wanted to talk about dinosaurs for an entire segment and I had a studio and enough, I assume, staff to work on this show, you could bring in a paleontologist. You could Google some shit before you get on air. You could ask some questions like, okay, I used to think this. Am I wrong? Can you tell me why I'm wrong? And of course, that's not how right-wing propaganda ever works. I don't know who to be more angry at. Allie Beth Stuckey for spreading bullshit, which is her whole career, or Ken Ham for spreading a different kind of bullshit and then not calling out the bullshitter on her bullshit. Like, I don't know who to be mad at here. So now I think I just hate myself. I think that's the logical conclusion for all of this. It's just extremely frustrating.